So I had another video topic in mind tonight, guys, but then I saw what happened with Kanye, Chi-Town's finest man, one of the most controversial, but also one of the most popular Chicagoans ever. And I agree with him on some things, disagree with him on other things. I think that's how a lot of people feel. So I want to examine what happened today, where he lost his deal with Adidas and took a huge cut. Obviously, that was a huge financial deal. I mean, worth over $1 billion. So that was a big hit. But Adidas said that they did it basically because of the comments about Jews. Okay, now I don't want to just do what a lot of media outlets have done and just say he's just an anti-Semite. So let's just dismiss all this. I want to examine some of the things that he said specifically, and get you guys feedback on it a little bit too, and kind of go through it. Now, I have to admit, I don't have all of the comments because a lot of them were edited out of the interviews that he did, and a lot of them were taken down off of social media. So if there's some out there that I haven't heard about, you guys can let me know in the comment section. But I know Instagram, Twitter did delete the stuff almost soon after it happened, after he had posted it, and then I know Fox News had edited some of these comments out. Now, it's caused a huge backlash, and apparently some right-wing, I guess, I don't know if they were neo-Nazis or what, but out in California, I think, standing above some freeway with a sign that said, "Honk if you think Kanye is right about Jews," and then they were throwing up the Nazi salute. And this was causing like a huge media frenzy over this whole issue today, causing him to lose his deal with Adidas. This is according to Billboard.com. Now, some of these comments about Jews are also connected with comments that he made about Planned Parenthood and abortion, because he was comparing the genocide of the Jews under the Holocaust to black people in America and the rate at which they die in abortions. Okay, and so he made some claims about Planned Parenthood that were controversial, and I'm going to examine those too. So Kanye West, they said on Billboard, claims that 50% of black people die due to abortion. That apparently caused a backlash. Now, according to Congress.gov, the abortion rate for black women is 474 abortions per 1,000 live births. So that is about 50%. It's about 47.4% of black babies meet their end in abortion before they're able to be born. So that statistic, he actually is pretty accurate on that. He said, quote, "We are still in the Holocaust." He said, quote, "A Jewish friend of mine said, go visit the Holocaust Museum. And my response was, let's go visit our Holocaust Museum," referring to black people. He said, and that's Planned Parenthood. He was saying this in an interview while speaking to a guy who was actually a Soviet Union-born Jewish podcaster. And that guy, that podcaster, had some of his family members killed by the Nazis during the Holocaust. So Kanye West, they said, appeared to downplay the atrocities of the Holocaust by noting that while 6 million Jews were slaughtered by the Nazis, he said, quote, "over 20 million have died by the hands of abortion," talking about black people. He said, claiming that the phrase "my body, my choice" is a promotion for Planned Parenthood. Now, according to the, I think it's the Guttmacher Institute, the number is 19 million. So he's pretty close. He said 20 million, and the number that they said is 19 million since Roe v. Wade. A spokesperson for Planned Parenthood had no comment on his statements at press time. And they said, quote, "While there is not verifiable support for West's claims about abortion," this is what Billboard said, and they're wrong. There is verifiable support. A 2021 national survey from In Our Own Voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda, reported that 80% of black Americans say abortion should be legal regardless of their personal views. Well, that doesn't affect the accuracy of Kanye's statements. He's right. I mean, he's off by a little bit, he's pretty close. So Kanye West added 50% of black deaths a year is actually abortion. He said, it's not the cop with the knee. It's not black on black violence and gang violence, not heart attacks. It's actually abortion. He is correct about that statistically. And this is according to U.S. Congress, the Guttmacher Institute. These are reputable sources. These are not just, random people on the internet. Like these are reputable sources. And the most dangerous place, he said, for a black person in America is in their mom's womb. And that is correct. Statistically, he is right. The Planned Parenthood organization, you guys, was started by a eugenicist named Margaret Sanger. And a direct quote of hers was that, quote, colored people are like weeds that need to be exterminated. She also said, we do not want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro. And so her plan was to try and convince black pastors to carry her message to the community, because she felt like the community will trust them more than they trust her. Now, some on the left say that she was just kidding with these comments, but that would be an awfully cruel and sadistic sense of humor if she was in fact kidding. And Planned Parenthood doesn't seem to think that she was kidding, because they, in a statement, denounced Margaret Sanger's statements, and they said that they were going to stop using her name or any of her statements because of her racist past. They said they own their racist past, and they're not, they don't identify with her anymore, basically. The thing that I always counter with that is that talk is cheap, and using her words or not using her words is completely irrelevant if they continue to do exactly what she told them to do, with the exact intended result, which is to limit and decrease the black population. And that's exactly what Kanye is talking about, and he's correct. He's absolutely right. That is not just something he made up. You can check that yourself, Google it. Number of black deaths in abortion, number of black babies aborted every year. You will see exactly what I'm talking about. Numerous sources cite that as being the case, which was exactly the intended goal of the eugenicist founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. She believed black people were less fit than whites, and that they needed to be taken off the face of the planet, and she did it with her organization, Planned Parenthood. So after that, Kanye told this Jewish podcaster that he said, it's not racism. He said, that's too wide of a term. He said, it's genocide and population control that black people are in today in America, that is promoted by the music and the media that black people make, and that Jewish record labels get paid off of. So this is a very controversial statement, because what he's saying is partly true. I mean, the genocide and the population control definitely, you see the effects. Like you definitely see the effects. Black people have by far, the highest murder rate. Hispanics are in second, whites are third, and Asians are in last place as far as murder rate in America. And you see that the music definitely promotes murder. I mean, and especially the music coming out of Chicago. This is one of the reasons why I stopped interviewing those guys. I got my start on YouTube, for people that don't know, like 9 years ago, interviewing rappers. The same way that a lot of other guys have, gotten their start. I was just interviewing rappers, interviewing gang members that were trying to get, make it in the music industry. But I stopped doing that, not because some people might think that I stopped doing that because I switched to doing that, top killer snitching stuff. I stopped doing that before that. If you remember, I stopped doing that before that, and I took down all those music videos that I've been posting on my channel, because my conscience was just killing me about that. Like, I could not promote what these guys were rapping about. And these guys were not guys signed to labels. These were underground artists, but they were basically, talking about killing all day long in their music. And it's like, I cannot promote this stuff no more, man, to the youth. Advertising has power to influence behavior, and this is a form of advertising, any way you slice it, like this music. So, I couldn't continue to post those commercials for gangbanging, basically, is what they are, is those songs on my channel. And, any YouTuber that does that, or that helps these rappers to, make it in drill music and basically spread a message of genocide, I won't rock with them. And they can call me a hypocrite because of what I used to do, but that's exactly the point. I used to do it. I don't do it anymore because of that very fact that I had to come to grips with. And so Kanye is right now. The part about the Jewish record labels, a lot of these record labels are Jewish owned, but the way that he's stating it, I a little bit disagree with, because it kind of implies that the Jews, have this plot to exterminate black people, and they're trying to do this through the music industry. And what the podcaster was bringing up is like, these are just individual guys trying to make money, and just seizing an opportunity to make money. And I agree with the podcaster on that. I don't think there's any organized plot, like Jews are having these meetings, let's figure out how we can exterminate blacks. And, let's do it through the music. I don't think that's the case. I think it is just individual guys trying to make a buck. The drill music is hot. The gangster rap or whatever these other guys rap about is hot. This is what's selling. This is what's moving in the marketplace. Not just them, they can see, everybody can see this, and it's an obvious, observation to make that, the conscious positive rap, it doesn't sell. You get a few artists here and there that can make a career like that, Lupe and a few of these other guys, but I mean the real big guys, man, they're rapping about the negativity. It's just what it is. And so the podcaster was saying that these are just individual guys. There's no plot, there's no organ, and I agree with him on that. So he pushed back against Kanye's continued use of the phrase Jewish media, which the Anti-Defamation League reported has led to some anti-Semitic groups embracing the hate speech and furthering their own agendas and inspiring new propaganda campaigns by saying that the use of the term creates an echo of pain that people feel, comparing it to statements made by Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels. So again, the Nazis believed that, the Jews had this a global plot to, basically take control and everything, and subvert other groups. And so anytime there's any suggestion that the Jews have this plot, like an organized conspiracy, it kind of harkens back to that. And, I've heard guys say, well, there's evidence of this conspiracy. And you can basically, the way that I always counter that is you can basically look at any group that has control over a particular industry, or even partial control over a particular industry, and use that as evidence that there's a plot. But the fact is, every ethnic group picks, their industry to go in. I'll use mine as an example. Greeks, you guys know, we go into the restaurant business a lot. Okay, we own a ton of, I don't know the exact percentage, but a large percentage of the restaurants in Chicago are owned by us. And the food companies that supply other restaurants, even non-Greek restaurants, are owned by us. I was just looking, I was at the grocery store and I saw this Chinese brand called Tai Ling Foods. I look at the label, I look at the fine print on the label, and it's owned by a guy named Gus Panos, a Greek guy. He owns this Chinese food company. We own all these food brands and things, and that was just our business that we decided to go into when we came over from America. My granddad owned a restaurant. It tanked, but that was what everybody was going into. And so you could look at us and say, well, the Greeks have a conspiracy to, make Americans fat and obese, and give them high blood pressure and heart disease because they own all the restaurants, and look at the kind of food that they're serving people, and they're trying to kill everybody off with obesity and type 2 diabetes. You could use the fact that we own all these restaurants as proof of that. These kinds of cherry-picked evidence collections is kind of like saying if there was an invisible cat sitting across from me, I wouldn't see anything. I don't see anything, therefore there is an invisible cat there. It's that kind of logic. Just because something makes sense, or just because you can put the pieces of the puzzle together in a certain way to make a picture, that doesn't constitute evidence. In court, that would never work. If you wanted to actually present evidence of a conspiracy or an organized plot, you would have to show actual communications between people, emails, letters, memos, some evidence that a meeting took place, a transcript of the meeting, somebody wears a wire inside the meeting and records what people are saying. You have to actually present a snapshot of this conspiracy. The fact that it makes sense, or that this would be the effects of the conspiracy if the conspiracy were taking place, therefore the conspiracy is taking place, that logic can be used basically to put anything on anybody. So Jews, they own a lot of these media companies and record labels. That's their business. People, concoct this conspiracy theory that the Jews are controlling everybody's minds via these media companies. And what this podcaster was saying is these guys are just making money, pushing what sells. And that's determined more by the consumer than by the record label owners, right? Because that's basically saying that this gangster rap stuff was not an organic creation of, the black cultural underground. That Jews somehow like told them to do this instead of just, looking, well, the black guys are making this and it's popular, people are listening to it, so I can make some money off of this, so let's go do it. Saying instead that the Jews kind of dictated to black people what to rap about. And if that's going on behind the scenes, again, I would have to see actual like memos, letters, texts, recorded phone calls, like some evidence on that level. The very fact that it makes sense is not, to me, is not enough. Now, I know people can disagree with that, but that's the way this podcast, that's the point this podcaster was making, and that's the way I see it. So Kanye pushed back. He insisted, he said, quote, "They are Jewish." And the podcaster, whose last name was Friedman, countered. He said, quote, "They are humans with opportunities, and they took those opportunities." He said, "I don't care if they're Jewish." So, again, point made. But over the week, demonstrators in LA unfurled a banner, as I was talking about, on an overpass, praising Kanye's comments about Jews that read, quote, "Kanye is right about the Jews." And Friedman also refused to accept Kanye's claim that the phrase Jewish media is a redundant statement, comparing it to the use of the N-word, even as West again insisted that he is a Jew, though not Jewish, which he said translated to like that of a Jew. So this is the part that I disagree with. I haven't heard all of his beliefs about this particular topic, but he seems to be suggesting that he seems to be referring to a theory that black Americans are the real Jews. Now, he may be referring to a concept in Christianity, because I know Kanye is a Christian. He may be referring to a concept in Christianity that Christians are like brought into the Jewish family by their faith. That's like a concept in the Bible. St. Paul is talking about like non-Jews who, accept Jesus and, follow his laws are basically Jewish in spirit. I don't know which one of those Kanye is referring to. I would have to get more clarification from him on that. But there is a widely held view in the city of Chicago among a lot of people in the black community, and this includes homies of mine, that, the black American population are the real Jews, and that the Jews who are claiming to be Jews are fake Jews. They're descended from a group of Khazars from like Central Asia that converted to Judaism later and stole the Jewish identity from black people, or from the people who eventually became black Americans. That there was a migration at some point from the Middle East into West Africa, and then Europeans from West Africa took the people who were Jews over here. That theory, and again, I don't know if Kanye is referring to that or to something else. Okay, I don't know which one he's referring to. But I've got homies of mine that believe this, and we respectfully disagree on it, man. That particular theory, I would have to see like actual archaeological evidence of that, and there's too much evidence that contradicts that. Like the Khazars are indeed a group of people that converted to Judaism at a later point, but there were other Jewish communities that predate the Khazars by thousands of years. Including in my own family's country in Greece. We've had Jews living in Greece for thousands of years. It's the oldest Jewish community in Europe is in Salonika, Greece, and they're not black. They're the same genetic family as the Arabs. They're Semitic people. You really can't tell the difference between them and an Arab. And I believe that they're the same gene pool as Arabs and other Semitic people, originating from the Middle East. And now the Jews who, have migrated into Europe and been in Europe for 2,000 years have had admixture from Europeans, and so they've turned white. The original Jews, the Middle Eastern Jews, nobody's really pure-blooded, but I'll say the Jews who stayed behind in their ancestral homeland, I would not say that they're white, but I wouldn't say that they're black either. They're like tan, brown skin. Like I said, they look just like Arabs. You really can't tell the difference. They're like cousins to the Arabs. A lot of times you even confuse them for being one or the other. Now, I think that there are some Jews that are part black in East Africa. The Falashas in Ethiopia, for example, they're descendants of the actual Jews from the Middle East that have, just like the Jews that went to Europe mixed with white people up there, the Jews that went to East Africa and Ethiopia, they mixed with the black people over there and have become, basically racially mixed. Now, all Ethiopians really, to some degree, are racially mixed because they mix with a lot of Arabs and even with Greeks and Southern Europeans. So the Ethiopians have a different phenotype than a lot of other Africans, but there's definitely some there that are Jewish, that are part Jewish or have that bloodline in them. The Jews are a global diaspora. There's even Jews in Asia. They're like part Chinese. So they've gone all over. But I believe that the original Jews are Semitic people from the Middle East that are perhaps part of the broader Caucasian gene pool, but would not be characterized as white. More of a tan, brown skin type people. So that's just my personal view on it. And that's where I see the most archaeological evidence, as well as historical evidence just from people that, traveled in ancient times and interacted with the Jews and things of that nature. Man, I don't think that the original Jews were, the ancestors of modern day black people in America. I have to disagree with him on that. If in fact he's saying that, which I don't know if he is saying that, I would have to get clarification. But so Billboard said that Kanye also repeated his claim that he cannot be anti-Semitic because he is Jewish, and he said this during a digression into the history of Jewish slavery in Egypt. He said, quote, "If Jewish people would accept that I'm a Jew, they'd hear it a different way." So he said that as soon as Friedman suggested that, quote, "the right thing is not to say that there's Jewish control of the media." But Kanye, however, pushed further, blaming what he described as a Jewish conspiracy that led to his being diagnosed with a mental illness in a 2018 interview. So Kanye is 45 years old now. He said that he was diagnosed with a mental illness, which his ex-wife, Kim Kardashian, said was a bipolar disease. He said, quote, "There was a Jewish trainer that brought me to the hospital and put in the press that I went to the hospital, a Jewish doctor that diagnosed me." So Kanye said that as Friedman again asked why he kept hammering down on the fact that the doctor was Jewish. And Kanye said, quote, "because they were." He said he diagnosed me with a bipolar disorder and shot me with medication, then put it in the press. And every time, even if I wore a wrong colored hat, he said, then they immediately say off of his meds, he's off of his rocker. And it's literally used as a scarlet letter control mechanism. So Kanye's recent, Billboard said Kanye's recent run of controversial interviews, as well as his promotion of his White Lives Matter t-shirt, has led to the crumbling of his business empire. They said Adidas is the latest former corporate partner to cut tie with Ye over his offensive comments, saying in a statement on Tuesday that Adidas does not tolerate anti-Semitism and any other form of hate speech. Ye's recent comments and actions have been unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous, and they violate the company's values of diversity, inclusion, mutual respect, and fairness. So as you guys may already know, he was also suspended from Twitter and Instagram this month over a, quote, anti-Semitic post that the social networks said violated their policies. His most recent controversial statements have led to a talent agency, CAA, dropping him, and MRC Studio announcing on Monday that it is shelving a complete documentary about the rapper. So in addition, a publication called Women's Wear Daily reported that fashion house Balenciaga cut ties with West last week, and his bank, JP Morgan Chase, said that they've ended their business relationship with him. The company said its move came weeks before Ye's recent barrage of anti-Semitic slurs. So when Friedman, the podcast host, suggested that Kanye stop, quote, amplifying false narratives about alleged Jewish control of the media, Kanye responded, quote, "That's incorrect, though. That's a lie." And he claimed that they had bullied him. Now, they may have been a reference to Jews or to the media. I'm not sure which one it was a reference to, but he also talked about the billionaire Democratic fundraiser George Soros, and he said that he claimed that he would, quote, use the black trauma economy to win an election. So that, I think, is a reference to something that a lot of black conservative bloggers and just media personalities in general have referenced about Black Lives Matter. So every 4 years, I've seen some black bloggers produce like comprehensive analysis of this, that every 4 years during election cycles, the media starts to kind of ramp up its coverage of black people getting killed or beaten up by the police. And every 4 years, Black Lives Matter starts to trend on social media. And then after the election is over, the trend goes away. And they've produced these charts like showing, how there's kind of like a spike, how every 4 years there's a spike in activity revolving around those topics on social media, and then as soon as the election is over, it goes right back down. And that the media coverage is more intense involving those incidents. There's usually some big case that comes out of some guy, and everybody's focused on it. All the civil rights groups are getting out and marching and protesting about it, and this happens coincidentally during election cycles every 4 years. So they have, suggested various things about this, and Kanye seems to be referencing that, talking about the black trauma economy. So there's a lot of money to be made by various organizations in this black trauma experience, like black people getting incarcerated or getting killed, or being impoverished or whatever it might be. There's kind of like an activism industry almost, if I can call it that, that's grown up, and this has been the case going back generations. There were black, I don't want to call them activists, but influential black leaders that used to talk about this very thing, like referencing the same thing that Kanye has referenced, and kind of calling out the race hustlers. And you can find references to this since all the way back in like the early part of the 20th century. People who kind of take advantage of that, and not all of these people are necessarily black, but there's people that make entire careers off of just, putting the black struggle in the spotlight. And, some of it is legit, obviously, like some of it needs to be obviously put into the spotlight so that people can see it and respond and know about it, and call out whatever is going on that's unjust about that situation. But at the same time, a lot of them kind of go looking for that stuff and interpret things that could just be the result of ordinary conflicts between people as being racially motivated, and then kind of make a big deal about that and make it into something that it really wasn't. And they'll go and pick and choose incidents that kind of fit that narrative, and go out searching for that stuff. You guys might be able, I'm not going to bring up any specific examples, but you guys might be able to think of some people that do this. Race thing, there's a legitimate struggle, and there's people who are involved in the legitimate struggle, but there's a hustle there too. And Kanye is, I think, referencing that, although I could be wrong. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, man. But he's referencing a lot of things about how like kind of companies and corporate America and the media and other ethnic groups, more powerful and more influential, interact with black folks that are struggling to achieve equality on like an economic and social level, and how some of them indirectly keep them down, and sometimes even directly keep them down by kind of exploiting that struggle and manipulating them in various ways, whether it be for votes or for donations or whatever it might be. But he's touching on a lot of topics here, and a lot of these views that he's speaking on, one of the spokespeople for Black Lives Matter was kind of calling him out and suggesting that he was pandering to white people, that he was just saying stuff that white people wanted to hear, to kind of as a come up, like that he was basically throwing the black community under the bus to kind of sign on with white folks and get on their good side, so that white people would be his friends, and he could just kind of rise above his status as a black man in America. This is what one of the, I'm paraphrasing here, but this is what one of the spokespeople for Black Lives Matter, and what a lot of people have accused guys who say the kinds of things that Kanye says of doing. But I'll say this. The views that he's expressing in this interview in Chicago, in the black community in Chicago, these are widely held views. The stuff about Jews too. For example, Farrakhan is a very influential guy here. Very influential. And there's a lot of other guys here that perhaps are not quite as influential as him, but that say a lot of the same stuff. I mean, about Jews in the media and abortion and, the black struggle and how the media kind of exploits it and things of that nature. There's a lot of people who speak like that here and who hold those views genuinely. I mean, like, they're not saying this is like pandering to white people. Like, this is just black folks talking amongst each other. You'll hear a lot of this kind of stuff, even in the schools, from the kids. Like, they're hearing it at home, they're hearing it in, their community. So these are widely held views. I think the accusation that Kanye is just making this stuff up to like impress whites or, gain the approval of white people, that's not taking into account where he's from. In Chicago, these views are widely held. Whether they're substantive or not, like whether you can substantiate them with actual facts or not, these are pretty popular views here, man. So at one point, he was asked about his ex-wife, but he said that he's able to speak his mind because he, quote, has God's protection. And he said, people said I lost my mind. He went on accusing Ari Emanuel of trying to take food out of my children's mouth after the William Morris Endeavor CEO wrote an op-ed in the Financial Times this week urging companies to split with Kanye. He said, I lost my reputation. He said, and I'm up here just like I want my family. But I don't want my family to have to say what the left wants it to say, to have to say what China wants it to say. I want to be an American and protect my kids and protect my wife and raise my kids as Christians and have my wife be a Christian. That's what he said. So these are these are remarks that have gotten him a lot of hate, man. And if you're a Jewish person, okay, like, or if you're a worker for Planned Parenthood or something like that, or somebody in the media or anybody that he's calling out in this interview, you're in a very difficult predicament, because if you let it go and do nothing, then the things that he's saying can get disseminated on these social media platforms. People can hear them, people can be influenced by them, and then those views can spread. If you call him out and shut him down and delete his Twitter account and cut ties with him in the corporate world and things of that nature, then you kind of substantiate and give credibility almost to the conspiracy theories that he's weaving here, or that he's repeating here, because now everything that he just said you would do if he spoke the truth, like you're trying to silence him because he's calling you out, you just did that. Like, you just tried to silence him. So it's like you're playing the role of the character in that worldview that that you've already been assigned in that conspiracy theory. You're doing exactly what the bad guy would do, try to silence the good guy. Now, like I told you guys, I'm not, a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I'm just some random dude on YouTube, so I never try to hide my own biases. The stuff that he said about Planned Parenthood is 100% on point. Like, he's absolutely correct about that. They've put a black face on it. They've got a black, the head of the organization now is like, I think she's mixed. I don't know what but I think she's part black. That Alexis McGill Johnson, and they constantly advertise to black women. If you go on any of their social media or like look at any of their ads, it's definitely targeted towards black women. A lot of the clinics are near black communities. It's definitely an organization that markets specifically to black women. And, they get on board, they say all the right things, get on board with the Black Lives Matter stuff. They're on board with the LGBTQ stuff, like all that stuff, man. And the history, though, speaks for itself. The agenda that was laid out by the founder is explicit, it's unambiguous, it's undeniable. Even Planned Parenthood has admitted it in statements that they've made, and they're pretending like they've gone against that or renounced that in word, but they've continued to put her plan into action in deed, like in actual fact, in action. They're doing what she told them to do. Margaret Sanger. So the net result, the net effect is exactly what Sanger had intended and had laid out for them to achieve. So I agree with what he said about Planned Parenthood 100%. And it's not even a matter of opinion. Like it's a fact that anybody can check out if they just do the research. And I've done that research. The stuff about Jews, though, like I said, a lot of it I think is the kinds of conspiracy theories that they were used by the Nazis, and they are a little dangerous because you're pointing fingers at basically shadows in the dark. Like if you can't, yes, Jews have a lot of power in the media, and yes, they have a lot of power. I would say a disproportionate amount of power in politics and influence and stuff like that, but they've gotten that the good old-fashioned way, by just getting educated, working hard, and going where the money's at and making smart financial decisions. And so when they've gained this level of power, people start pointing fingers at them like, they've got a conspiracy to subvert these other groups and things of that nature. When I agree with Friedman, they're doing what's making them money. Like they're just making smart money moves, okay? They're responding to the demand that's in the marketplace. Negativity in music and in media, it sells. I mean, unfortunately, it sells. People like what's bad for them. They like food that's bad for them. They like, drugs, substances that are bad for them. Like whatever's bad for people, they like it. Unfortunately, and that includes music, like stuff that's bad for their minds, stuff that gets them thinking negativity all day long, thinking about killing people and, sleeping around with other women, like cheating on their wife. Like they listen to music that influences them to do this stuff. This kind of music sells, and there are certain people, many of them who are Jewish, who are taking advantage of that and, going where the money's at. But going where the money is at is something that everybody has done. It's throughout human history. It's just something that some people have done better than others. Do you think that they did the right thing by trying to silence Kanye? I don't think so, man. Because, there's people that spew hate about all type of groups. And not only are their voices not silenced, they're even amplified by these exact same corporations and these exact same social media platforms. Yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts, though, in the comment section. Do you think that you think they're handling this in the right way, or do you think Kanye handled it in the right way? Like, is there something that he should have said differently, or that they should be doing differently? Like, how would you respond to it? And if you were a Jewish person, how would you respond to it? For them, for the black community, I wish nothing but the best. I wish they could reconcile their differences, because at the end of the day, these are both groups that have been oppressed historically. And your boy, Winning City Report. I'm out.